Working with Dr. Rich, I identified this model of the learning components, and I made a simplified version of it. There was a grad student he'd been working with. You can see it in my publication. I cited him there. But the simplified version is that if you think about what it takes for learning to happen, there's basically these three very broad strokes layers. The bottom layer says you have to have humans, because humans were made to learn. So that you got to have that for learning to happen. And then the second layer is you've got to have instruction. You've got to have pedagogy. You've got to design the interactions, and that has to be sound. And then the third layer is the human has to want to engage with the pedagogy. And so that's motivation. And so gamification is not a pedagogy. It will not improve crappy education. It is a motivational tool. It will just make people want to stay in your crappy education longer. I can't fix a bad course. I can just make people want to stay in it longer. There's room for lots of pedagogy decisions to be made. I'm trying to tap into the same type of things that games do that are addictive, that make people want to stick around. And so that means autonomy, that means feeling competent, that means it's creating a social environment, those kind of things. That's what gamification does. Now, I've always been looking at the micro level within a course, and you're looking across courses. Quests and badges, those are the kind of things you've been looking at. And I've been looking at those same things, but within a course. And they do have differences. They feel different. There's more portability when you're talking at a macro level, so Canvas badges and that kind of stuff. Within a course, I think achievements is more appropriate to think about. Maybe badges. Anyway, that's just areas I'm still trying to think through myself. I'm in the 25th grade now, and I have a pretty good track record. But those first few freshman, sophomore years, I was not a very strong student. And it wasn't until I discovered independent study when I became a grade student. My GPA skyrocketed as soon as I discovered courses where I could decide what I do when. And I could focus on one topic for as long as I wanted to. And so I've tried to create my version of Delphinium. So I'm running Project Delphinium in a live class right now. I have 90 students. It's very much a laboratory. I'm making changes on the fly all the time because they discover things that don't work, or assumptions I made about them turn out to not be true. But I wanted a course that would allow students to have ultimate freedom in the sequence of assignments they choose and when they do them. And so that's my current efforts in Project Delphinium, is to build that tool. And it's worked out really well. I did find out that if you give students absolute freedom of when they do assignments, about half of them will wait till the last 2 weeks of class. And so there is a game element. There's two game elements at play. One is autonomy. If you're following self-determination theory, autonomy is a big deal. But urgency is another important element. And so I had created an interface with tons of autonomy and not much urgency. So next semester I'm going to include a little more urgency to keep people on pace with the rest of the class.
You took the classes you wanted to because you created them yourself.
Yeah, I did. I did create a bunch of assignments, and I'm trying to create that environment for my students at the same time for those who prefer a more rigid environment, meeting their needs as well. I really got excited about the competition side of it until I did a really detailed qualitative analysis. And there's this vocal minority who loves the competition. Then there's this silent minority who finds it really disengaging. They're in the bottom of that leaderboard, and I tried to make the leaderboard a little more compelling by making it tiered. So you could be number one in the bronze level or something, and if you duke it out, you could knock somebody out of the bottom of the silver level and kick them down to the bronze, that kind of thing. After talking with Jane McGonigal, she came to school here a couple of weeks ago and just gave a presentation, and we had a luncheon with her. I'm wanting to explore more less competitive ideas and more achievement-oriented ideas and more collaborative kind of ideas. This is where when I said that I made all the kind of common mistakes everybody did of throwing leaderboards, points, and badges at it. That's a really, and I heard this example at the Gamification World Congress. We can all think of games that have leaderboards, points, and badges that suck, that no one wants to play. And they might have amazing graphics too. But you can think of a simple game like Flappy Birds or something that people are super addicted to. And so trying to understand that, there's something more nuanced here. Like I said earlier, I don't think we really have our finger around gamification. And I think we especially don't have our finger around gamification in education. I think it's a different animal.
I really wanted to. Thank you. And this is Dr. Chapman from UVU.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate the time to talk.